One of the biggest challenges that my clients struggled with at the start was that they just didn't feel motivated. What I have since learned is that almost all direct sellers try to motivate themselves with money. When I do this, I'll make $200 a month. But there's a huge problem with this. 85% of direct sellers are not motivated by money. If motivation has been a struggle for you, then you'll want to attend Money Doesn't Motivate Me webinar. It's happening Wednesday, November 17th of 2021 at 7 p.m. Central. It's totally free and will cover how I learned of this motivation mismatch, why using the wrong motivator doesn't work, and how to find your primary and secondary motivators. Just go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com/motivation to reserve your spot in the webinar. And yes, it will be recorded, but only those who are registered will get the recording link. Again, the link is badassdirectsalesmastery.com/motivation.
Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, Jennie Bellinger, your direct sales dom, helping you whip your business into shape. Today, I have with me one of my clients, Nicole Sweeney. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, thank you for being here. Now, this is actually your second appearance on the show because you and I had a, a happy hour
Yes.
last year. So people are welcome to go back and listen to that. We went ahead and recorded a fun happy hour just for the fun of it, right in the middle of COVID stuff happening. So that was fun.
Yes, it was.
We had a great time. So Nicole, tell everybody about your business and, just let everybody know who you are for those who haven't listened to that episode, or maybe they haven't heard it in a while.
Perfect. Sure. So my name is Nicole Sweeney. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I have been with Pure Romance now for almost 12 years. I started out with a full-time job, but my business was allowed me to be able to quit my full-time job within 2 years. And then I put myself through grad school twice. And so sexual health has really been a passion of mine for a very, very long time. I am a mom of 3 and a wife. So my business gives me the flexibility to run mom life and still be able to make the money that I need to help support my family.
Awesome. And I invited you on the show today because I wanted you to be able to share your experience, because the last 2 episodes that we've had on the show have been all about the DISC personality assessment and the assessment that I do, which is deeper than DISC. Mm-hmm. And you've been through this process and you've had a really great story about that. So first, let's share with everybody, what was your experience with me when it came to learning about your DISC personality and also your motivators?
So it was really interesting for me because I had done the DISC when I was working full-time. 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago when I was working at my full-time job. And so for me there, I took an 8-hour course all about the DISC. So I was familiar with what the DISC looked like. However, my results from that DISC have completely changed. So I used to be a really, really high D, like extremely high D. And now D is my lowest category. And so it was really eye-opening for me to see that I've, basically have been able to morph myself from where I was in a supervisory role, but changing it into a leadership role. So that was really awesome for me. Being able to show my motivators behind that and mold all of that together was really great because Jennie helped me to understand why I do some of the things that I do and how with the DISC and my motivators, how it changes, or not changes, but how it morphs me into a better leader. So it gave me a little bit better understanding on how that worked, which I really, really enjoyed as well. And so it has been able to just kind of open my eyes to see why I take some things personally, why I back off on certain confrontations when I need to have them, but being able to see that for me, empathy is huge in my life, especially because by education, I'm a therapist. So I knew that empathy was big for me, but being able to see why my altruism is really there. And that's, one of the things that totally motivates me in my business was really important, but also seeing that economically is, I'm very economic driven, which I certainly knew, but didn't really realize how much it impacted my business and my life. And so that was really great to see as well.
And so knowing all of this, because we had our consult, I think about a month ago,
Yep.
How has knowing all of this impacted your motivation since then?
So I think knowing all of this at first kind of, what's the words that I'm looking for? So at first, I think it kind of scared me a little bit because I was knowing all of this and then going, okay, so how do I build myself around these things? So it scared me a little bit, but then being able to coach with you, Jenny, has then been able to connect my dots more and see where be able to place where I'm looking to move forward within my business. So one of the things that has definitely impacted me, and with your help, has given me some renewed motivation to give back. And so I was really struggling with where I wanted to be in 2022, but I'm really excited because I've chosen to create a make a difference goal and to be able to connect with an agency that I'm super passionate about and be able to help them, which helps, it with my altruistic high motivators, makes me super excited to move forward into this coming new year. So I think that has helped gain that motivation. I think being able to get some clarity on what I want from myself and my family and my business has been really great. And knowing where with my high S and my high C, helping to gain that momentum as well.
Yeah. And so, that motivation now has, and we've seen, especially recently, a shift in that motivation for you and really kicking that into high gear. And so what's interesting is with that shift in motivation, you've had some really impressive results, even just in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that have shown up in your business now because of going through this process and really beginning to, as you say, connect those dots between your motivators and your activity?
So some of it has shown up in my business as to being able to build my team, really set forth, being able to see that vision of growing my team and being able to help other women in this business, as well as, like I said, literally within the last 24 hours, I've been able to connect with that agency to be able to connect and network with them to see where they need me and my help the most. And so that's also great because, they're also willing to then promote my business with that. So that's really cool. And I think that the biggest thing is the clarity of, like I said, for the last few months, I've really been struggling to see where I wanted to go with my business, but now being able to have everything written down and looking at what I want and, that my year has not, even though I was allowing myself to criticize myself, my year has really been spectacular for me and my team. And so being able to give myself that grace and not to be so judgmental of myself and allowing myself to let all of this really push me to go even further within my business.
Well, I am so glad to hear that, Nicole, because it's really been a great pleasure to watch this growth that you've had in your business since we started working together in early 2020. Because, interestingly enough, we met before the pandemic, but we started working together right at pandemic. So it was like the perfect storm of being able to help you through that process. And so it's been really fun to get to watch all of this. And now that I've gone through this certification process with this deeper than disc assessment, getting to really then coach you based on who you are instead of just kind of that trial and error, which was happening before. Well, I think she's like this, or she seems to be like this. Now I know based on the assessment. So I really thank you for being willing to share your experience here with the audience, because we are having the Money Doesn't Motivate Me webinar on November 17th, where people can check out and find out, okay, if money isn't your motivator, if that's not getting you off the couch, come check out and have the experience that Nicole had of just going through the assessment and the consultation and checking out the webinar and learning, okay, why doesn't money motivate you? Where is that mismatch? And how can we figure out what your motivator truly is personally? So thank you again, Nicole, for doing this.
You are very welcome. Thank you. I really enjoyed this whole process, and I totally recommend it to anybody else to be able to dig deeper into yourself and find out what runs you and motivates you and how to be able to move forward with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we have another conversation with another Deeper Than Disc assessment client coming right up in just a moment. Welcome back to Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm Jenny Bellinger, your host, your direct sales dom, helping you whip your business into shape. And I am here now with Chris Moore with Elite Business Advisors. Chris, say hello to everybody.
How's it going?
I'm so glad you're here. So Chris, start out by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give the quick 30-second spiel on that. So I'm Chris Moore. I work with Elite Business Advisors, and we focus on helping contractors understand their business and think through their business like a business instead of just a job. So we help people with the finances, the marketing, the day-to-day operations of their business in a lot of variety of ways.
Awesome. And so, people, my audience who's listening to this right now is probably wondering, well, normally when she does this kind of stuff, she's inviting other direct sales and network marketing people to participate in these kinds of conversations. And this time it's with another coach or consultant. So when you and I did the Deeper Than Disc session, what was your experience like that? Or what was your experience with that like?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I'm pretty familiar with the disc profiles and have been, in tune to that in probably 4 or 5 years now. And one, just having an understanding of that's been the biggest blessing in my life for my marriage, my relationships with other people, like everything. And I thought I had a pretty good understanding of it until we did the Deeper Than Disc assessment. And really, there's a reason it's called Deeper Than Disc, right? Because it really made me understand the disc profiles to a whole nother level, especially on my motivators and certain things like that.
Good. And so in going through that whole thing, how has this impacted your motivation in working your own business and working with clients? And like you said, in your marriage as well.
Yeah, no, I think, the biggest thing about disc that I always say is it helps you understand your strengths and your weaknesses, right? Like, what are the things you're really good at that you excel with? But more importantly, what are the things that are areas you need to work on, right? For me, I have no problem sharing this. Like, I'm a very high D when it comes to that on the assessment. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very aware of that. And so I try to, kind of tone that down. And so I think the biggest thing going through the Deeper Than Disc assessment was really being more aware of those key motivators, right? Like the disc personality profile was one thing. You can go find, assessments all over the place, but really having somebody like yourself to go through and analyze this and talk about it and talk about the motivator side of it really was super eye-opening to me to realize that I'm very high on the economic motivator. And it was like, oh, yeah, that really makes a lot of sense. So, as weird as it is sometimes unlocking secrets about yourself, it's a very good awareness thing to understand, like, hey, this is why I act or react in certain ways. This is why when I'm stressed out, it's usually for me, it's from an economic side of things, and stuff. So it was very good to understand why I react to certain things in different ways, but also what really will propel me to where, since we've done this, I've tried to focus in more on the things that drive that economic side of my business.
Oh, that is awesome. And now that you have that as a motivator, what are some of the results you've seen happening because you understand how to motivate yourself? Yeah,
no, I think really two things. One, and it's probably been a few months since we've done this, our revenue's up about 20% on a month-to-month basis with our client retainers. So just honing in on that and figuring out ways we can broaden our services and expand our revenue through the current clients we have. So it kind of made me take a different focus to my business in that sense. But the other side of it is I've really prioritized spending time working on my business and not in my business. And for me, I always say this, like I'm kind of a hypocrite at times, right? Like I'm a coach, I teach people this, right? Work on your business. And then what was I not doing sometimes? Working on my business. And so understanding the economic side of it and the motivator for me, it really allowed me to kind of reprioritize my schedule and make sure that I was spending at least 5 hours a week working on my business, working on growing that next step, working on developing the next thing. We're doing a lot of mastermind groups for painting contractors specifically right now. And so I've spent at least 5 hours a week doing outreach for that and connecting people. We've got 10 people interested in it, which was even more than I was expecting just here in the last few weeks. So really just reprioritizing myself to make sure I was driving the economic side of our business forward with that motivator. And obviously seeing the results of that's been huge, just to understand what triggers me and how to make a plan to go about making that happen.
That is truly amazing, because when I asked you to come on and have this conversation with me, I did not know that you had increased by 20%, which is huge. Congratulations.
Yes. Thanks. I can't take all the credit. I got to kick some of that back to you, but I appreciate it. So,
oh, super. Well, you're the one who did the work, but it's nice that to know that this was the Kickstarter that got you going in that right direction, because one of the things that I often hear from entrepreneurs, regardless of their industry, is that motivation piece. You know, how do I keep my motivation up? Like, how do I get motivated to do the work? How do I get, motivation is just can be a very hard thing when you work for yourself, because we sometimes can be a very lax boss at times, being in charge of ourselves. So I really appreciate you sharing your experience here with my audience. That's really amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm super happy to. I appreciate you asking me to even do this. And I'll even take this one step deeper too, if you don't mind for a quick second, and just kind of share another thought I had as we were talking through this. You know, for me, what I do for a living isn't necessarily about the money. Like, I love to be able to help people think through their business. I love to watch businesses grow and double in size and all those things. And it's very fulfilling and rewarding to me. And I think I always kicked the, economic side of it a little bit like to the curb, right? Like, to me, it's not necessarily about the money, but it was very eye-opening in doing this assessment because of the way the assessment is. And I've taken a handful of these, and this is by far the favorite one of mine, because of all the things it kind of tells you about yourself. And it made me realize that even though my internal view about my business isn't that it's all about the money, that really deep down, it still is about the money, right? And so it just kind of brought that back to light and say, no, you need to focus on this for the self-fulfillment part of it, but keep the attitude that you don't nickel and dime people, right? Like those types of things. So it really kind of, brought both sides of the spectrum together and really made me understand, like, it's okay to, know what you're worth and to provide value and to grow your business, but there's still a time and place to keep that right attitude, that it's not about the money. So I don't know if that really makes sense, but it kind of brought a new perspective to me when it came to that and made me realize a lot of things.
It does. It does make a lot of sense to me, because there are so many people, especially in network marketing, who their big thing is not necessarily money. Money is not a motivator for people in network marketing. And this is what I'm finding with all the assessments that I've been doing with my clients, and then people who are not necessarily coaching clients, but are in the network marketing space. The economic value, or many network marketers do not have a high economic value, meaning they don't highly value the money, the return on investment. They have other motivators that take precedence over that. And in fact, more than 50% of them, economic is actually one of their bottom values, so lowest values. So there are other motivators that are going to be more effective for them. But knowing that economic is your area. And economic isn't just, and I want to help explain to people, economic isn't just about money. It can be about results, right? Getting a return on time, return on investment, return on relationship. The economic is about getting the most out of something, which in some cases can be money, but in other cases, it may just be results, which also is not shocking given how high of a D you are as well.
Right.
Being so results oriented. So that does make perfect sense. So I just wanted to help explain that to the listeners because they're not familiar with the different values that are associated in there, because there are 7. And I'm actually going to be talking about that on a webinar that I'm doing called Money Doesn't Motivate Me, happening on November 17th. So super excited to be able to share your testimonial on this and how this has how going through this process has really impacted you and your business. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience with my audience.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me on here. Thanks again for inviting me to be a part of the Deeper Than Disc assessment. I know we've got a handful of our clients that we're going to be getting plugged into you to go through and do that so we can help properly coach them in the right ways and know what triggers them. So no, it's been a blessing for sure. And I 10 out of 10 recommend it to anybody listening to this.
Oh, wow. That's a huge recommendation. So thank you so much, Chris. All right. Well, we've got one more testimonial coming up, letting you know about this opportunity for the webinar and the Deeper Than Disc assessment. So make sure you stay tuned because it's coming right up. All right. Now I am back with Stacey Mitchell with PhoenixPay Solutions. And also she is a social seller for Pure Romance. Stacey, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So glad to have you here. And of course, I asked you to be on today because you have gone through the Deeper Than Disc program with me, the assessment and the consultation. And what I wanted to do was share, because you had some pretty amazing things happen in your life and in your business since we did this a few months ago. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of talk about your experience and then let you share what has happened since we did this assessment. But tell us a little bit about PhoenixPay Solutions and your business with Pure Romance as a social seller.
So PhoenixPay Business Solutions, I'm a merchant services broker. I help small businesses give themselves an immediate raise so they can invest more in their employees, their business, and themselves. I do that by helping them through their payment systems to make sure that it is benefiting their business the most effectively. And Pure Romance, I found that I have a passion for teaching that also flows into my PhoenixPay business as well. But I enjoy helping women get the most out of their lives. So that's where those came from.
I love it. And they do, both of those businesses fit you very well because it does end up fulfilling your value of helping other people, which is I know a big one for you. So let's go through, and can you just share with the listener right now, what was your experience as you went through going through the Deeper Than Disc assessment along with the motivators and then the consultation that we did afterwards?
So one of the biggest takeaways when we went through the assessment afterward was you helped me identify where there were a lot of areas in my life that really served me well. I am a giver, and I love that feeling of helping others find what fulfills them. But we also identified that I have a tendency to put others ahead of myself. Over the years, I've gone through some life changes, and that really started affecting the way that I put the degree that I put others ahead of myself. I started losing myself. And the more that we went into the Deeper Than Disc, it helped me to really understand that I can't possibly serve others in the way that I want to if I don't start serving myself at some point as well.
That's huge. And so right around the time that we did that, and just based on conversations you and I have had, and I've heard you speak about this in various conversations where there were other people involved, this actually going through this spurred you into doing a really big thing that you just finished a couple of weeks ago. Share with everybody that big thing that you did.
So I guess about a year ago, I heard mention of this crazy thing called 75 Hard. And at the time, I just thought it was this crazy weight loss thing this woman was doing, and I didn't think much of it. About 45 minutes after we did my DISC assessment, another coaching client mentioned going through 75 Hard and shared more detail that it's really more of a mental toughness challenge. So I started doing a little bit of research on it, and it dawned on me that that's what I needed. I needed to find a way to become more mentally strong and to better take care of myself. So I did start going through 75 Hard, which 75hard.com, if anybody hasn't heard about it, has the details there. But it was an incredible life challenge for myself. And it really helped me get to my inner whys and what motivated me, and helped me to start putting myself first, both physically and emotionally. And it turned out to be a pretty life altering process for me personally and for my business.
And it all started with going through and learning your DISC and your values and your motivators, right?
It did.
Oh, that's awesome. And so now in going through all of this, how has this impacted your motivation in your business?
So I've been one of those people historically that it's always been hard for me to finish things that I start. Certain things I can put my mind to and I can fly right through it and never be distracted. But I have to really have a strong why to be able to see it through to the end. But 75 Hard, when I committed to it, I knew there was no giving up. There was no quitting. And I was having this conversation about what made the difference. And what made the biggest difference was having clear, actionable goals. And we've talked about that in our coaching sessions many times. And all of the things that we've talked about over the years finally hit me. You know, it's not enough to say, I'm going to eat healthier. It's, I'm going to eat sugar and I'm not going to eat junk carbs. I need to exercise more. Okay, but what does that mean? Okay, I'm going to work out twice a day for 45 minutes a day. One of those workouts is going to be outside. And they were such clear, actionable goals with a checklist that really stuck out. And those are things that we've talked about in our coaching over and over again. And I failed to execute them. And it all aligned so much with everything that we've been working through, that it's finally starting to show up in the ways that it needs to, as far as getting things accomplished, because I can now set my clear, actionable goals. That's huge, right? Because, you know, where I often see people floundering in their business is when they don't have those very clear, actionable steps laid out in front of them. And not only that, because they don't have that, there's zero motivation to get it done because they don't know what they're doing. Right. It's that the paralysis by analysis. So many need to be done. You have a checklist of 50 things that have to be done. And where do you start? You start at what's most important. And if it's not enough to say, okay, I'm going to do 3 things for my business today. Okay, out of that list of 150 things that I need to be doing for my business, which 3 things am I going to pick? And when am I going to do them? At 10 o'clock at night once I get the kids to bed? Well, no, because my kids want me to be in bed with them. So it's setting a schedule. It's saying specifically, these are the activities that I'm going to do. Possibly this is the amount of time I'm going to spend on these activities. We've talked before about is it the Pomodoro effect?
Oh, yeah, the Pomodoro technique.
Pomodoro technique, where you set a timer for accomplishing certain things. And it's all of those things that are just clearly defined that help really start taking hold.
That's amazing. And I know not only did you go through 75 Hard after all of this, you actually ended up rebranding your entire business, your payment processing business, based on that conversation, because you recognized that there was a major time, it was time for a major shift for that.
I did. So my original business brand was Anchor Business Solutions. And the thought behind that was that an anchor for a boat helps hold a boat in a safe place. It may also hold a fisherman in an area that's throwing up fish, but it's still a weight. And going through all of this, I realized I no longer want to be held down by a weight. I'm no longer being held back by anything, and it's time to fly. And a phoenix is born from the ashes. And that's where I feel like coming through the Deeper Than Disc and launching me into 75 Hard and all of the life changes I've been going through over the last year and things that led up to that, it's being reborn through the ashes. What I want for my business, to help a business find that thing that's going to help them grow through the ashes. It's going to help them soar more than what they've seen in the past. So that spurred me into this rebrand, going from Anchor Business Solutions to PhoenixPay Business Solutions, helping a business soar.
And in this process, have you seen some changes in your motivation and the results that are coming from having this new rebrand and new way of thinking?
I have. So typically in our industry, there's a tendency to go talk to businesses about, let me save you money. Let me save you money. I'm going to save you money. Let me look at a statement so I can save you money. But it's not always about the money. When you can look at a system and find out what's holding that business back, it's oftentimes it has something to do with their financials. It has something to do with the way the cash is flowing through the system. And I can now look and have a conversation. What's holding you back? Where do you see your business in 3 years? How can I best help you get set up to support your business model? And I'm actually talking with a business owner right now that is going through an entire platform change. And the platform change is going to have a huge impact on the way that they take the way that they take payments. So we've been having that conversation, and it's a business that's one in a group of 30. Now, I may not get all those businesses, but I might get some of them. And it's because we had that conversation. How can I help your business soar?
Ah, I love it. And it all started with one little conversation that took you through better understanding yourself through the disc and the Deeper Than Disc and motivators. So I really appreciate you, Stacey, taking the time to come and share your story, because it's been, as your coach, we've been working together for over a year now. We've been friends and business partners for much longer, business associates, I should say, for much longer than that. And it's been really fun to see this major shift happen in you and watch all the things that are going along with it just in these past couple of months. So I really, really thank you for taking time to share your story.
And I have appreciated all of your wisdom and insight and the nudges and the drips that have accumulated to spur me into the actions that I need. I have a tendency to not really grasp everything right up front, but I'm always listening. And the little nuggets that you have shared over the last couple of years that I've been working with you are all starting to build and accumulate. And I'm starting to really see the fruits of all of that. And it's really been astounding.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you sharing that, Stacey. And now, listener, badass crew, know that all of this that I've been talking to on this episode about all of these conversations we've been having about Deeper Than Disc, and the last couple of episodes have all been about the DISC personality assessment. And then especially in the conversation with Alex Onderud has been the Deeper Than Disc, taking it more than just getting that personality assessment, but actually digging in and getting those values, motivators, and attributes that can really help people make sustainable changes in their mindset, verbiage, and behaviors. And I am going to be talking more about how money is not a primary motivator for more than 85% of network marketers, direct sellers, and MLM pros. So understanding in the Money Doesn't Motivate Me webinar, the Money Doesn't Motivate Me webinar is happening on Wednesday, November 17th at 7 p.m. Central Time. It is a totally free webinar where I will be sharing the money motivation mismatch and understanding why it is that the wrong motivator doesn't work. Like most people would be like, duh, of course using the wrong motivator doesn't work. But you have to understand why it doesn't work in order to make the shift to the proper one. And then by the end of the webinar, I'm going to share with you how you can discover your true motivator so that you can have stories just like the ones that have been shared on today's episode and be able to build and grow your business the way you've always dreamed and be motivated to keep it going for as long as you are choosing to stay in business. So thanks again, Stacey, for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Awesome. So now if you're interested in checking out the Money Doesn't Motivate Me webinar, you can go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com/motivation to sign up for free. And even if you can't join us live Wednesday, November 17th at 7 p.m. Central, if you go sign up, you will get an email with a link to watch the replay after the webinar is over. So make sure you go check that out. Again, check out the link in the show notes. It's badassdirectsalesmastery.com/motivation. Just click that in the show notes and you can go sign up now. And stay tuned because there is another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.